Good evening, everyone. My name is Quavis Peacock, and I'm excited to have you here this evening to engage in our Black History Month Waco Leader Panel. Here at Baylor, I work within the Office of External Affairs with the Solid Gold Neighborhood Initiative, where my title is the Assistant Director of Community Relations and Cultural Wealth. Through our Solid Gold Neighborhood Initiative, we hope to be more intentional in connecting the Baylor community with the Waco community. And through my role particularly, we hope to ensure that as we are making these connections, that we are doing it in each and every community, particularly our communities of color. And that's a role I truly enjoy because it allows me to make connections between the great people who are here on campus and the great people who are doing work within the Waco community. An example of that is what's happening this evening, where we will be able to hear from several Waco leaders of African American descent who are truly making an impact in our community. We're in for an exciting time that we will get a chance to kind of learn on ways that we can grow in our own leadership. Real quick, housekeeping rule. While we have a moderated panel discussion to begin with, afterwards, all participants will be able to ask their own questions to the panelists. To do so, we are instructing you to input your questions in a Q&A function where you can find here within the Zoom platform. To start us off and to moderate us throughout the evening, we have a current leader here on Baylor campus, Ms. Maya Ellington Williams. At this point in time, I ask that you help me in welcoming Ms. Maya to help lead us in our discussion this evening. Maya.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Quavis, for that introduction. My name is Maya Ellington Williams, and I'm a senior medical humanities major with a leadership studies minor. I have the privilege of serving as the Black Student Coalition chairwoman for this school year, and I am excited to be able to lead this discussion with such great leaders from the Waco community. I want to go forward with introducing our panelists. Tonight, we have with us several dynamic African American leaders who are leading great efforts in our community. We have brought together these panelists with the understanding that local leadership plays a crucial role in mobilizing Black communities. We have with us tonight City Councilwoman Andrea Bearfield, who represents Waco District 1, Dominique Rocco Boats, entrepreneur and founder of Rock My Style and the Laurel Group, Jasmine Bledsoe, an activist who is a part of the New Black Collective, Linda Crawford, owner, editor of the Anchor News, Dr. Terry Woods Campbell, who works as an OBGYN at Baylor Scott and White Hillcrest, and Ken Hampton, a retired site engineering director. Thank you all for being so willing to join us this evening, and I'm looking forward to the wisdom that you share with our attendees. We will begin with questions inspired by some of our Black Student Coalition student leaders, but please feel free, as Quavis mentioned, to submit questions to the Q&A as our panelists answer the following questions. So the essence of each panelist cannot be captured by that quick introduction that I provided. So I would love for each of our panelists to introduce themselves and share more on your work in the Waco community.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Andrea Bearfield. I am the City Council person representing District 1 for the City of Waco. District 1 is incredibly blessed with some amazing assets, and I probably have the most diverse geographic footprint in Waco, as my district covers North Waco, South Waco, East Waco, and TSTC. I am currently engaged in several nonprofit organizations. I serve on the board of Prosper Waco, Startup Waco, Communities in Schools, the Planned Parenthood of Central Texas, the Texas Lyceum, and I'm a proud member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated Waco Alumni Chapter.
Hello, everyone. I'm Dominique Boats. Most know me as Rocco the Barber. I own Rock My Style Barbershop, also a part of an investment group called Laurel Group. About 10 years ago, I started my business at Rock My Style, and through that, I've met a lot of people in the community, which made my passion grow for the love of the community of Waco. So now I want to embark on community development. That's what I want to get into and start doing things to create opportunity for the people in Waco, Texas.
Hi, I'm Linda Crawford. We own the Anchor News. We're about to celebrate 19 years in the community. And we use the motto that we can put your business in the streets, okay? It has to be positive business because we don't do negative news and we don't do fake news, all right? So I'm glad to be here.
Hi, I'm Jasmine Bledsoe. I'm the co-founder and president of the New Black Collective. I'm also a member of Change Waco and the co-host of a new podcast called Stories of the Streets.
Good evening. I'm Dr. Terry Woods Campbell. I am an OBGYN that is formerly associated with the Family Health Center and the Women's Health Center, but I still work at Baylor Scott and White. I am currently a OB hospitalist that works in not only Waco, but also in Abilene, Texas, and Odessa, Texas. I'm in Odessa currently. My community service spans all over the place, from educating young women on STDs and pregnancy care to my efforts with several community service organizations that I'm involved with, to include Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, as well as the Links Incorporated. I'm excited to be here.
Good evening. My name's Ken Hampton. I'm originally from Texarkana, Texas. I have a degree in electrical engineering. Most of my career was in engineering and operations. For a while there, I was a plant manager of the Mars plant there in Waco, okay? Most of the community service that I did in Waco, I worked for the Chamber of Commerce for 7 years. Hopefully you guys have heard of the LEAD program, which we helped start up. So I enjoyed working with the Chamber, a lot of community development work, education, and workforce, which was great. I'm also a proud member of Phi Beta Sigma Incorporated. So it's good to be with everybody today.
Well, I am excited to hear from our panel. As you all can see, we have a great diversity of perspectives here with us tonight. So I'm looking forward to taking advantage of that and seeing what comes about from our conversation today. So Mr. Hampton, may you please start us off by sharing a little bit about how did you identify and pursue your passions, and throughout that discovery, what kept you going?
I think that when I was trying to figure out what I was going to do coming out of high school, one thing that I always knew that I liked was electricity. And so I was able to mentor at a company, and there's this skinny white guy, I was calling from Mississippi State, who helped me to find my path in engineering. From there, it was a great job. From there, you continue to grow. And so really I was motivated about really trying to do the best thing that I could for my family, for my own goals, to be an example to others. And mentors are very important. I had great mentors. They led me to become an engineering manager. They led me to become a plant manager, HR, that kind of thing, doesn't matter. The other thing that's gonna happen is as you continue to get older, your interests will change, probably. All right, you may be in the same field like I was, but you may do something else in that field, and that's good, that's part of your growth. The thing that I would tell you is, and I always struggle to do this, enjoy your journey. Enjoy your journey, celebrate your success. Network with people, that kept me going. My mentors kept me going, my family kept me going. Breaking barriers kept me going. I was one of the first Black engineering managers in Albany, Georgia, which is a segregated town. I was the second Black plant manager in Mars, North America at that time. So when you break those barriers, it makes it important, it makes it good for other people to move on. And I was really proud of the fact that the time that I was at Mars, I helped more people to become plant managers than anybody. So that makes you feel good. There's certain capital that's monetary, but what you'll remember is your spiritual capital. So that's what keeps you going, those kind of things, the small things. The money won't keep you going. What will keep you going is your spiritual capital.
No, that's great. I think that's really important to remember those small victories that we have and being able to break barriers within our community and to assist others as they pursue, their own passions and helping them identify those. So I think that's amazing. I would love to hear from another one of our panelists who could share a bit on how did you identify and pursue your passions and what kept you going throughout that?
Okay. I think meeting with my friends once we were done with college, just going over how we grew up in Waco and what we felt like we lacked, helped all of us. I'll speak for my entire group. It helped all of us to identify what we wanted to do in order to not only give back to Waco, but in order to add to our lives themselves. So knowing, where you came from, that's a big part of identifying your passion. It's like, what have I gone through in my past that can help me with where I want to go and will help me stay on the course of where I'm going. I think that's very important as well.
Well, sticking with you, Ms. Bledsoe, so you're the leader of a Waco-based nonprofit focused on amplifying the quality of life within the urban community. So how does activism on the behalf of our community relate to your work in the Waco community?
So kind of going back to what I said, sitting down with my friends, thinking about everything that we experienced as children in Waco, teenagers, what we lacked, what was not available to us. It kind of helped me learn, like I said, my passion. And also it's been very, very, very strong in my head every time I'm thinking of, okay, how can I be a gatekeeper for everybody else? And so when I'm thinking about activism as it relates to African American people, I always tell myself, I can't save the world, but I can try to heal my home. And so it's been very helpful for me personally to remember, what we need at home. We need a lot in the world, but we need things at home too. So I started at home. And so it's helped me not only, think about what I'm thinking about, but be committed to my city. And it's helped me to, like I said, be a gatekeeper, give people a voice. So the Change Waco was born to help, people as far as it relates to systemic racism and different things like that. And out of Change Waco came the podcast Stories of the Streets, which is the platform where we allow, regular people to come on and tell their stories. Because I feel like that's a form of activism in itself. I tell everybody, I'm not going to go out in the streets and march. It gives me anxiety. But what I can do is help you, let your voice be heard. And I think that one thing that we all learn, we use the term activism a lot, but people try to make it this one thing when it's many things. And so learning what your lane in activism is. Mine is giving people a platform and allowing them to become their own voice. So that's how I, use my platform to help others as far as activism is related.
Now, to our other panelists, activism is something that I think is applicable to the various fields that you're in. So how are you incorporating your joy and your love for activism in your respective fields?
I think for me, being in the barbershop, that's where the conversation is. Like everyone wants to have conversation, everything from the news to what's on Facebook to what's going on in the streets. It's like the conversation sometimes in here, it gets extremely heated because even it could be two Black people. I have a diverse crowd, but I think conversation needs to be had just so people can know how you feel. And sometimes that's what's needed. It's just a conversation. Some people just want to vent and get it off their chest because when you talk about things, you feel better about it. And it's like a lot that's been going on lately. And it's not a day that goes by that they're going to let it all out. It's going to pour it all out. So I try not to make my opinion be their opinion. Like I try to listen to them and see what they say and what their perspective is on it. And then I get my perspective. But a lot of times we don't agree on it. So I think my part is just allowing them to feel the way they want to feel, allowing them, like she said, like activism is just not one thing. It's not just marching in the streets. It's not just, wearing our shirts. It's not just, what the media may say it is. It could be just somebody having a conversation, just somebody listening to somebody else. I feel like that can be a part of activism.
To carry over that statement, I felt Jasmine when she said, you know, I'm not going to be in the streets, because even though I sit in a political seat, if you go back to focus marches in the civil rights movement, somebody had to cook. Somebody had to make sure the bail money was together. Somebody had to activate and galvanize the lawyers and the doctors to heal, you know, when folks got beat up. There are so many roles and pathways for people who engage in their community and get involved in the activism of it all. You know, so if people who are elected are the face of policy, you know, somebody has to help us figure out what the why is in the policy. And you have to really, it's not going to motivate you to push to change unless you know and are engaged. So, you know, how we're connected and interconnected in it all is what motivates us to change and make things right. Healing your home, if you will, is our form, is the elected's form of engagement, because see, we then can take the things and the stories from the streets and the things we overhear in the barbershop and those things, and know how they affect people, and how then what we need to do to right that or to balance that.
Those were two really good answers. To me, activism just means staying active. We all can't do the same thing. And even in different roles, in one role, you may be more effective marching. In other roles, you may be more effective providing resources or providing some of the other duties we talked about. Activism to me just means being active and engaged in your community within whatever role that you're comfortable with, because the subtotal of that is what's going to make us successful. We all can't do the same thing. We wouldn't be very effective. So be active, stay engaged in the role that you think you could be the most effective and the most comfortable, and you'll make a difference. And I think what I'd like to see the Black community is to stay active all the time. We do a really, really good job when we're really ticked, okay? But that only lasts for a little while. We need to, having worked for the chamber and seeing how some of the other groups work when they do public policy and that thing, they're active all the time. And really by the time you get to talk about a decision, the decision already been made, because the work behind this thing is not very glamorous. It's not very noteworthy, but it's very effective. And so we need to be active all the time, not just when we have something that we're upset about.
And if I could chime in, as a physician, it's kind of difficult to be an activist in the sense of activism. Mm-hmm. But I feel like my version of activism is using my voice to inform people about mm-hmm. things that they may not be aware of. And I have, over the last several years, become more involved and engaged in government policy and how things run at the state level and local levels and local government. And I feel that our community is just not so engaged at all times. And sometimes it takes someone who maybe you respect to inform you of something that you might not have known about. So my version of activism is information and trying to inform the masses of things that they may not have known about, but they should know about, and things that they should follow and things that they should care about. And like Ken said, over the long term, stay engaged. This is why things break down. Like, for instance, the Texas power grid. If everybody is not interested in the Texas power grid right now, you should be. So those are the things, and the history behind the Texas power grid. I'm kind of a history buff. So I go back and I look up things and I figure out, oh, wow. So here's how we got here. And I try to inform anyone who will listen. So that's my version of activism in a sense.
And if I could piggyback off Dr. Woods, when she said she was talking about people having a voice or giving out information or whatever, that is what the Anchor News is all about. To me, the fact that we want to highlight the good stuff, You know, we're not always out there doing things and getting in trouble and going to jail and spending time in prison. And so that's our force with the Anchor News. We want people to see that we can do some good things and we can say some good things and we can hold some good offices and we can have good names in front of our names. Yeah, so that's our whole purpose of having the Anchor News. We just want people to know that there's good stuff about people of color.
Yes, thank you for all of those responses. I think what each of you said plays a key part in identifying what does activism mean to me and how do I incorporate it differently. About, you know, what our councilwoman was saying, we all may play different roles, but we, at the end of the day, we have to all stay active all of the time in informing people. So thank you so much for that. Dr. Woods Campbell, you are excelling and making strides in the medical field, a field that clearly needs, you know, more Black professionals in it. So how did you conquer your self-doubt and not let imposter syndrome derail your work?
So, not to sound cocky, but I've always been my biggest fan. So many people don't know, but I had my oldest child when I was in high school. So by the time I started med school, I actually was a single parent of 2. So I was already a statistic. And people told me in the past. I mean, I had one of my English teachers or professors in high school tell me that I should change my path and not become a physician because I had my son in high school and I would be a good teacher. So I have always fought that even though I had my son in high school, I knew that there was no way that I could provide for him unless I did what I said I wanted to do, which was become a physician. So I haven't really suffered from self-doubt. I mean, medical school is a beast all by itself. And you'll have those times when you feel like, oh God, this test, or I failed this, or, you know, am I going to make it through? But you get your support group behind you, you get your family, whomever is your people, your tribe, you get them behind you and you can make it. And my inspiration through med school and residency was my children. So I knew that I had to finish in order for our lives to be better and for me truly not to be the statistic that everyone thought I was going to be. So as far and not to mention the fact that I am a unicorn, I am a Black female physician. So I can't have doubt. I mean, I have to lead where I can lead, and I have to kind of be out there and show people, children of all age, creed, color, that you can do what I've done. Specifically in my community, I've always tried to mentor those that aspire to go into medicine. And my name started floating around at Baylor because I spoke at an SNMA meeting or something like that when I first got here. And one of the students was like, oh my God, you know, because again, I'm the only Black female physician or Black female OB in Waco for the last number of years. So for me to tell them that I am a physician was like, oh my God. So I got bombarded and my cell phone number got texted around. And a lot of times those African-American Baylor students who'd not had the opportunity to shadow a Black physician would call me, and I gave them that opportunity. So self-doubt has never really been an issue for me. Again, that might sound cocky, but again, you know, I am a unicorn in my field. We are less than 2% of the whole population of physicians, Black female physicians. Don't even get me started on surgeons, which I'm also. So self-doubt, imposter syndrome, I've just kind of beat that back. I've never let anybody make me feel like I'm less than, and I kind of go from there.
No, I think that's great how confident you are. I know a lot of our students here on campus, you know, they're constantly told by maybe advisors, you know, in our community what they can and cannot do. But that confidence that you have, you know, we have to be this for our communities and for fields that so desperately need us. So I think that's great. And I love that confidence that you're sharing and, showcasing to us of what we need to go forward in our work. For our other panelists, I would love if you could share, how did you conquer that self-doubt or just let go of it all the way to not let that imposter syndrome derail your work?
I think that, those are some excellent points, by the way, by Dr. Woods. I think you have to make sure that you're comfortable in your own skin. There's a reason why you are where you are, because you're really good. I have been around thousands of people all over the world. Trust me, you're as good or better than most of them. I can tell you that for a fact. So believe in yourself, and then make sure that you network with people. You got to get some of that anyway. Make sure that you network with people who are trying to do something. The way you put that down is be successful. At some point, the rest of those stereotypes will fall away, particularly if you have the right support structure, the right mentorship. And that doesn't have to be at the job either. Sometimes that needs to be away from the job. Be comfortable in your own skin. Be successful, and you'll be fine. But be comfortable in your own skin. You are at Baylor, you are at colleges, you are at these other jobs because you're good at it. And I can tell you, I'm a little older than you guys. I've been around a lot of people, from people that worked on the floor to one time I worked directly for a billionaire. You are just as good or better than them. Period. Remember that.
And I have to say too that my English teacher, department head, said that I would never amount to anything because I had my son as a junior in college. And they advised me to change my major. Okay. I wanted to be a teacher. I wanted to teach community college, but people told me since I was pregnant that I wouldn't finish school. And if by some chance I did finish, I needed to understand that most community college did not hire people of color. And so they talked to me about all of those things. But the bottom line is, I knew what I wanted. I knew I had a child to take care of. And I knew that I could do what I wanted to do if I tried hard enough. And so that's what I did. And like Dr. Woods was saying, I'm one of my biggest fans. You know, the easiest way to make me do something that you don't want me to do is tell me that I can't do it. And then it's on. And that's just it.
I mean, that whole part right there. Um, so look, two things. And, my mama, when I was a kid growing up, there was a phrase, keeping up with the Joneses, right? And that at that time had to do with maybe status, right? Or what folks had. My mama used to tell me, you can't keep up with the Joneses if you're a Jones. So it's kind of it's kind of just about believing in who you are. It doesn't matter what other people have. It's knowing who you are, right? Politically, one of the things that someone will tell you if you're about to, if you say, hey, I think I'm going to run for office. So one of the first things they tell you is, what is your why? Why do you think you're the best candidate for the job? And, so once you figure that out and craft your why, at the beginning, you may think that that's for your voters, right? It's not. It's for you, because things will get hard. They will get difficult. There will be questions that you can't answer. There will be people that you can't help. And so as opposed to, turning to the self-doubt and questioning your ability or your skills, you really have to go back to your why. Your why is your not. That's the thing that you hold on to, because you're not doing this because most of us I think just about everybody on this panel does something that they do not get paid for, that they will not get credit for, that they are planting trees that they will never enjoy the shade of. So we are doing this because it is who we are, why we're doing it. And so that why that you craft, that's what keeps you going. That's what keeps you motivated. So, and it does bat down the doubt. But you can't keep up with the Joneses if you're a Jones, and pop your collar and keep moving, because You are, after all, you, and they chose you, right? Or even if they didn't chose you, you in there. So do your thing.
I always say, why not me? That's what I tell my friends, my other co-founders, why not us? It's so easy to get discouraged, but I feel like a lot of times we get discouraged because we feel like we're incompetent, and like the journey is going to incapacitate us, which may not be true because you haven't even taken the journey. So I just always tell myself, you don't know until you go through it. So getting discouraged is not an option for me. Like sometimes it does get hard, but I'm like, like people telling us, well, y'all are too young to do this, y'all are too young to do that. Like Ms. Crawford said, I'm gonna do it because you told me I could do it. And that's really my attitude. I mean, being young is often one of the hardest things to be when you're doing work like what me and my friends do. And a lot of times we do feel like little guinea pigs to some people, but for the most part, when you are doing what you are supposed to be doing and your purpose and you're aligned with the work that you're meant to do with your life, the people will come. We just said we were going to do a back to school drive, and then God literally gave us this network of people, and now we know so many people that we wouldn't have known 3 years ago. So it's really about believing in your purpose, believing in your alignment, and believing in yourself, because you can have the purpose and the alignment, but if you don't have the belief in yourself, you're still not going to do it.
That's a good point. Well, I think we've all been called names or put down at different points in our life. But if we really were that, I have to question people who do that. We wouldn't be able to get there anyway. You don't have to tell me I can't get there. I just wouldn't be able to do it. And if you look out throughout our history of African Americans that have succeeded, think about Dr. King, was leading a movement in his 20s of the nation and older Black men than me that he had to lead and pull them along and gain their respect. Now, he was called a lot of things. He was stabbed, he was shot, but look what he left because he believed. And so we have to, when I get a little down sometime as I was coming through corporate world and all that, I'd go back and think about some of those leaders and what they went through. And if I could just do a piece of that, then I'm gonna be okay.
I'm not gonna take up too much time on that question because I almost forgot we had an audience. Like y'all motivating me. I was like, they talking. I'm over here feeling inspired. Like I was just like, yeah, but everything that everybody said. Because myself, I sometimes get down and I doubt myself or I question like, God, why me? How did I get here? And but just like keeping people around you, like everybody that's on this panel, to always constantly tell you those things, that just having people around you that believe in you. It's like, I'm about to do this because they believe in me. I don't even want to let them down. They counting on me. So I gotta go hard. So I mean that's all I was saying now.
I'm with you. I almost forgot that this was a panel. I'm being touched and motivated in so many different ways. I thought I was in a self-class for a moment. But, sticking with you, Rocco, so we all have to be committed to engaging in our communities. And as someone who is very active in the Waco community, how do you suggest students take part in making a substantial difference in Waco and their respective hometowns?
So for me, growing up, and not even growing up, once I graduated, I was always told that I had to leave Waco in order to be successful. They was like, you gotta go, you gotta get out of Waco. Ain't no opportunity here. People not gonna support you here. And I know that it came out of place, like out of love, because a lot of my close people said that like they wanted what was best for me. So they thought what was best for me was for me to move out of Waco. But there was something in me that always believed that I could make it happen here in Waco. And I feel like, and people hate when I say it because I say opportunity so many times in this sentence, but a place with no opportunity is an opportunity to create opportunity. So if there's no opportunity there, if I create that opportunity, then that's not only helping my city, but it's helping me grow, and it's helping the people around me grow, which is going to help my city grow. And a lot of times we believe that Waco or our hometown is the people that we know, the people we went to school with, the people we go to church with, you know. But think about it, when you go to the Walmart, when you go to the mall, all these different places, you see people all the time that you've never met. You don't know their name, you know. So I feel like I could go to Dallas or Houston or Atlanta and start my life, or I could like recreate my life here in Waco. I can visit other churches and I can go to different places that I never ate before and meet different people and go to events. And then when that networking come around, you see that there's like-minded people that's trying to do the same thing you're trying to do, trying to create the same opportunities that you're trying to create. So I feel like what you should do is like, not listen to the negativity. Like if you want to be in your city, then just get active. Find out the people that want to do what you want to do. Find out how y'all can help each other. A lot of times you look for the best photographer or you look for the best whoever it is that you want to be creative with. When your friend wants to be like, y'all have to, what they say, network across instead of networking up. Just find you a friend group and start being active in the city that you're in.
That's very important. I love what you were saying about network across and not networking up, you know, bringing in different members of your community that you already know that are already close to you to get things done. I'd love to hear from our other panelists on how do you suggest students begin making a substantial difference in Waco and also their respective hometowns?
I'll piggyback off of what Rocco said about networking across. So nothing that we do we outsource for. Everything that the New Black Collective does is because of our network or because of our friend group. So you can do the work in your hometown, wherever you are, your respective cities. Like Rocco said, we are always told, don't go back home. And we were like, you know, planning for the New Black Collective, trying to figure out what we wanted to do. We were like, we're going back home to do this. Because none of us live in Waco. We're all in the DFW or Houston. And so it's like, you know, you'll find where you need to give back at and by what your heart is telling you. And your what you need to give back to your community is already in front of you. Like I said, we didn't outsource anything. When we did our first event, everybody that was helping with our first event is somebody that we went to high school with. And we just reached out because it's good to reach back sometimes because people are doing things. And like Rocco said, you know, people always say, well, ain't nobody doing nothing and there's nobody here and you're looking for the best when it's right next to you. If your eyes are, you know, if your mind is mature enough and your eyes are open enough, it's right in front of you. So it's kind of that simple.
One thing that I think that we can all do, when I was working for the chamber, I would actually go to the schools twice a week and I would read to children. One boy, his name was McQuan. And he, at first I was like, why is this old dude coming over here reading to me? And eventually we formed a pretty good friendship. And I would see him actually out in the town. Hey, Mr. Hampton, how you doing? And so you're a role model to those children. And so if you can, spend time with them. If you can read or if you can do something with the schools. The other thing is if we could organize and vote. We struggle with that everywhere. I think our Black women are much better than that than our Black men. I kid our Black men all the time. We need to step up. And the other thing is, I don't know if there's a young professional group I know at the chamber. I hadn't been a member of the Waco Black Chamber for a while, but I was on the board. If there's a young, if they have a young professional Black group, young professionals is maybe African American, they probably do. Be involved in that, network with each other. You may not be on the same job, but you're gonna have the same challenges. And those people can be very positive motivators for you, right? That's the difference a lot of time. It isn't always intelligence, anything like that. It's work a little harder, you work a little smarter, and you get a little bit more support, and you can move mountains.
So in the diversity of this bunch, because there are probably fewer of you that are from here as students than that are temporary Wacoans. But I have always believed that home is where your stuff is. Mm-hmm. And so while you're here, you need to know your city. Mr. Hampton mentioned a minute ago about voting. We did, NAACP did a big initiative, Vote Where You Sleep, because the things that are affecting you while you are even in transition, if this is a seasonal period where you're Wacoing, but what happens here affects you. So you need to be engaged and being part of it. Mr. Peacock and I got engaged and made aware of a woman named Majora Carter. And one of the things she said was, if we're going to be a part of a solution, we have to engage the problems. So what that means is you have to be active, a part of what's going on, so, bloom where you are, right? Now, I understand what Jasmine has said, because, when I graduated high school, my mama said, go be great. What did I hear? Go. Yeah, that's the words I heard. I heard go. Now, am I glad to be home? Coming home, I wasn't expecting to, but it's probably one of the best things I've ever done, was come home. Because, I know who we are. I know how amazing this community is. And, I know that now we've got an opportunity to keep that going and to open doors, so that, even though we laugh and joke, I'm not quite mission 1. I'm somewhere between junior mission and mission 2. I'm not that old, but I'm old enough to help and to lead and to place, to support, we've talked about mentorship tonight, and that's one of the things that you have the opportunity to stay and be great. You have the opportunity to engage where you are, to make impact where you are. And that's one of the things that any collegiate, I don't care where you are, I challenge you to do, because you may find that you have seen yourself here. You look around and you're like, this is me, and I'm going to stay. And so then we've added a layer of Wacoans, people who love our city for who we are, what we're doing, why we are, and they continue to make place and grow. And then we're just better and better and better. And it's more iron sharpening iron.
So moving forward, leadership is necessary, but of course it does come with its difficulties. Beginning with you, Ms. Crawford, what advice do you have for leaders who struggle to stay the course when faced with obstacles?
Well, I mentioned to you all before that the Anchor News is celebrating 19 years in the community in August. And we've gone from a 12-page black and white only document full of errors because we didn't have internet and we didn't have spell check, to a 16-page color document with a layout and design person and minimal errors. But we know that we didn't come this far by ourselves. And so I think that's a perfect question, because my husband and I have a strategy for dealing with obstacles, and we call it pray, say, and obey. And so the number one thing that we do is we pray about it and we give it to God, and then we listen to him because he tells us what to do. And one of those things is if he tells us to contact somebody, we are not too prideful to do that. We have our people, we have our person or our persons. And one of our persons is on this panel tonight, and that's Councilwoman Barfield. She is not a yes person. She is a truth person, okay? And so we have to be willing to accept that. And so we pray about it, and then we say what the problem is when we call up our people, like Councilman Barfield and Rachel Pate is full of resources, and both of them will reach out and they'll work for us, and they will put us in touch with the right people, and they will tell us the right things that we need to do. And so, and our third thing is obey. So we pray and we say and we obey. When they give us the guidance, we do our very best to listen to it. And that's how we deal with obstacles. I mean, I think Ken said a few minutes ago that it may be a different role, but we all have the same challenges. And so I know and that you will have challenges too, but you have to remember that you don't know everything. There are people out there who know what we don't know. They've been where we need to go. And so we have to be willing to share that obstacle and listen and do our best to follow the guidance.
Well, I'll for one say I think all of you have been somewhere where I personally need to go. And just the guidance and the advice that you all have shared so far has been amazing. So from our other panelists, as leaders in your respective fields, area, work, or efforts, how do you suggest or how do you advise us to stay the course when we're faced with obstacles?
Can I add one thing I forgot to say?
Sure.
When you run into a negative person, keep running.
I will say that when I first moved to Waco, and I'm not originally from Waco, but here I am. I found it difficult actually to break into the Black community because we can silo ourselves. And when I first got here, I always would go to the cafeteria. I never went to the doctor's lounge, so I always tried to be amongst the people. And I never got invited to churches, to picnics, to homes because they saw me as they're like, oh, I'm not going to bother the doctor. And this is what they tell me years later. So it actually took me to join a church, join an organization for them to see, oh, she's not just here in form. She's just not going to do her job. She's going to actually be a part of the community. So sometimes showing yourself and being active in the community lets them know, okay, I think I can get with this person. And so it's hard to work in a community and they don't necessarily feel you. And because like I'm not from Waco, so when I first got here, I was the outsider. So it took me to kind of infiltrate these corners and areas where I wanted to work and get to know people and grow, for them to see me and embrace me and my family as part of the community. And that allowed me to kind of do even more in my field and in my community, because now I had been embraced by that community. So it's real important to be active. And again, since I'm not originally from Waco, when I came here, it was difficult for me. I will say it's probably 4 or 5 years. And I was like, it was me, my husband, and my daughter. That was it. So it really takes you to be engaged and go out and pursue these efforts in the community, for them to kind of be like, okay, let's support this person, and let's wrap our arms around them. And then you can do the same with that community.
I think Dr. Woods makes an excellent point. I've been a transient most of my career. One time I moved 4 times in 7 years. So I think that she makes an excellent point. The thing that you have to do is be engaging if you want to break through that, because all kinds of different towns, small ones, big ones, but you have to be engaging, and you've got to let people get to know you. But at the end of the day, you got to be principle based, okay? If you are principle based and you're engaging, eventually they won't see you as a person from Waco or Texarkana or whatever. They'll just see you as Dr. Woods or Ken or whoever you are. But that takes time. And so when all things fail, when I was doing a lot of things in management, things do get very difficult. And when things tended to run off the rails after much debate and a lot of heat and a lot of politics, at the end of the day, when I got pushed into a corner, I would defer to what my principles were. If I'm going to go down, I'm going to go down based on my principles. And it worked out. It takes time, but you'll also feel better about it. And you'll get what you want, but always defer to your principles.
Okay, so before we head to our Q&A provided by our attendees, we have one final question for all of you, but beginning with Councilwoman Barefield. what do you think is the most pressing issue for our community? And how do we not only address it, but address it together?
So it's two sides to this coin, right? It is the most pressing things within the Black community, and it's the pressing things that are on the other side with other people of other communities, other ethnicities and race communities. So let's talk about ourselves first. One is apathy or lack of concern. Oh, well, they gonna do what they gonna do. Really? No, no. Oh, someone can only ride your back if you allow. If you stand up, they cannot. So, if you take, it's us and ownership of the responsibility to our advancement. So that's one of the things that I think is a huge problem. And that the solution to that is we all have to realize what our place is and what our responsibility is to the engagement part. You cannot watch your life go by. You do have, this is a full contact sport. And so you need to pad up and get in it, right? I think issues that affect us as a whole, of course, lack of access, opportunities, the way that implicit bias affects us in our professional and advancement lives. I think that folks outside of us with savior mentalities also are a part of things that hinder our growth and advancement. But how we do that is to continue to be aware of who we are and what we want to do, set goals, alignments. That's one of the things that we don't realize, and is that relationships is how progress is made. And so we need to start relying on one another. Like, Ms. Bledsoe said lateral moves, reaching within our circles to do what we do, because we have the talent, and our bench is deep enough. We just have to trust our bench, right? And so we're going to have to start doing more with one another, because we are stronger together than we ever would be individually. And I know that's hard, especially when we are conditioned to rely on ourselves. It's going to take us being okay with us, and standing together to form a tightly woven tapestry that can't be pulled apart. And that way, that's almost like chainmail, right? And it's impenetrable. And that's when we'll advance. And I think that's the way we get further.
Yeah, Andrea I was going to say something else, but really it does come down to apathy or loss of hope. When you talk about education and lack of resources, really at the end of the day, apathy leads to a lot of those things. I think that if I had a magic wand, when I was a kid, I'll date myself, we grew up in totally Black neighborhoods. So the dentist and the doctor, we had a couple of them, the attorneys, we all lived in the same neighborhood. And so I kind of had a few role models, right now, if we could find a way, because white people do it, our connectivity so that we could help each other with more affluent, tear down these walls and see each other as brother and sisters, we've got to figure out how to continue to whittle down at that trust. There's a lot of history to that. I want to get into that. But if we could find a way to drive higher connectivity, we could do a lot more with each other than we can apart in the different groups. I look at this last election, when I look at the people who came out, particularly Black women who really made, I keep harping on that, but I'm very impressed. When they drove that connectivity, it made a difference. And all of us can try to increase that connectivity. One thing I love, my grandfather was a barber. So every 2 weeks I would go get my hair. He'd make me get my hair cut, wouldn't let me grow up my little fro at that time, which was popular. And I'd go down to the barbershop and I'd hear those old men. I'd hear some amazing stories. The barbershop is still one of the very few places you could actually go and hear hear things as they are. I still go to the barbershop in Waco when I happen to those guys. I enjoy that conversation. I enjoy that connectivity. And so that makes a big difference when we do face a challenge. We're not having to learn each other over again. That's Rocco, or that's Andrea, or that's Dr. Woods. That helps to solve problems. We don't all have to live in the same neighborhood to drive that connectivity. We all need to continue to work on that.
One thing I want to say that's pressing is that we as people, I wish that we would, especially with our young ones, a lot of times when we see them, their pants are sagging or they're going down the wrong road, we're quick to just be judgmental toward them and not try to figure out why did they choose that way or what can I do? And it's a lot to tell a child, like, not to sell drugs. Like, you don't need to be out there selling them drugs. Okay, are you going to give them another option? You know what I mean? Like, I feel like we need to stop saying don't, and start being like you said, there was role models. I think we have a lack of role models in the community now. And it's like a lot of older people just saying, somebody got killed and I heard that boy, he was in the, but why was he? Where was this support system? Who was supporting him? They say he was living from house to house to house. Okay, so like, what did we do about that? And so I think that's where my heart is in the community. Like, I want to like really create opportunities for guys. So when we tell them that you shouldn't do this, we have another option. Because don't tell me not to do this if you're not going to help me feed myself or my family. So I think for us as a community, I think there's a lack of role models and it's a lack of support from one another.
I want to thank you. That's a really good point. I was a mentor for a long time. One of the kids I had went to Rappaport, and I'm only about 5'7". This guy's 6'8". He played basketball there, so we look weird, right? It's an older, short guy. And he did some of the things it took us a while to get to know each other. To your point, one of the things we always wondered is why he always dressed this way. And as I found out later, he didn't have any other clothes. He wasn't doing that to be rebellious. And I think after we built up our rapport with each other, he could talk to me about things that he could talk to his mother about. He could talk to me as a Black man. Mr. Hampton, why are the cops always picking on me? And so I could kind of understand his way. This is kind of the way I would do it. I was young at one time, don't have your same challenges. And he would ask me why I did some of the things that we did. And we became pretty good friends for a while. We continued to write. He went to college and we stayed in touch for a little while, but breaking down those barriers, connectivity. When you live in another person's shoes, maybe we can better understand each other or guide them. And a lot of times when I talk to young men now, it's like, well, I get sagging, it's cool. I probably would have done it too if I was your age, but I probably wouldn't try to get a job sagging. And here's why, okay? And then I would say, well, what can we do to help you? And then he would explain some things to me. But it's connectivity. They're not bad people. They're not dumb. They're in a different environment.
And just to kind of really quickly say, the one thing I've always felt is that our youth cannot be what they don't see. So if they don't see a Black physician, a Black female councilwoman, a Black-owned newspaper, they don't aspire to that. So, I mean, I always had an issue with every child. We would have organizational groups with children, and they would always say, well, we'd say, okay, make your little dream board. And what do you want to be? What do you aspire to be? It was always an entertainer or an athlete, because that's who they saw.
That's right.
Now, thankfully, after 2008, then they saw that they could possibly be the president, and now they can possibly be the vice president. But if we aren't out in the community saying to these children, you can be me, then they don't aspire to do anything but what you've said, Rocco, about, because that's who they see in their community. They see the drug dealers, they're doing well, they got the nice cars or whatever. But they cannot be what they don't see. So if they don't see you in the community and say, wow, she's a physician and she's Black, she looks like me, then I could possibly be her. And that's That's what I have always tried to do. If anybody asks me, oh, Dr. Woods, can you come and speak and blah, blah, blah? Absolutely. Who's going to be there? Because if it's going to be children there, I need them to see you can be what I am. And I had a child in high school. So you can be a teen mother, single parent, and still be a physician. So again, you got to be out there so that they can see you and aspire to be you.
Here, here. Excellent.
Yes. I know we are going over our time a little bit, but our conversation has just been that good.
It's okay.
It's okay. So I hope our audience, stick with us for a couple more minutes as we come to a close. We're going to answer a Q&A question and get some parting advice from our panelists, and then we'll be on our way. But, thank you all so much. I cannot begin to express how thankful I am to have, heard from you, learned from you all. So we'll go on with our Q&A question, which is, systemic socioeconomic inequalities are very prevalent and challenging in our communities of color. What are some steps that could be taken to break the barriers?
Boy, I hate to keep talking, but that's my area. I'm a financial advisor now, and not just now, it's something I've been involved in for decades. But I think financial literacy is, it comes down to education, really. Financial literacy is very important. My mother and father never even had a checking account. I mean, we got our food from, we kept the little books, y'all, you're too young for that, from Mr. Morphy down the street. They wrote them in little carbon books. So learning about financial fitness, and when I teach class, I look at the net wealth of African Americans, which is between 6,000 and 13,000. Whites about 170,000, and I can show people where the gaps are. Okay, and so having that education, you don't have to have millions of bucks. It's just simple education. And if we were to spend time being educated, or somebody taking the time to educate our kids, I try to do that. It would go a long way. How to build a budget, how to make sure you stay within your cash flow cycle, stuff like that. Can leave you with a lot of success and a lot less pain.
So by day, I work in real estate. So something that we do monthly, well, at least twice a month now, is we host a free webinar that teaches people how to become homeowners. And outside of that, what we do within our company is, even if a person is not ready immediately to purchase a home, we don't just kind of throw them to the wayside. We never say no. We say not right now. And when we say not right now, what we do is we give them a game plan, tell them how to fix their credit, tell them what they need to save in money, and they get different scenarios of what they would be eligible for or what they would qualify for if they have an increase in pay, or if they get a promotion, or if their credit score is projected to become higher, what their interest rate would drop to, or how much their award amount would increase. So I believe like a lot of the problems that we have within our community are simply because we're not taught. And the way for us to overcome those things is to teach other people. Like doing the free webinars is something that we don't get, we get business from it, but I'm not getting paid to work till 9, to help somebody. And even within the nonprofit, we've done a credit seminar because even myself, I'm speaking for myself. When I left home, I was like, I'm free, and I messed up my credit. But it wasn't because I just wanted to mess up my credit, but it's because my mother didn't know and her mother didn't know. And it's just, it's cyclical because most of us are survivors, and we live life just to survive. And many people live paycheck to paycheck. So there's no thought process going into, okay, well, I have to leave this for my children, and I have to leave this for their children. And even now I'm going through some things with my grandfather. He's sick and he's passing away. I don't have a will. I barely have life insurance, and he hasn't kept up with a lot of things. So I feel like a lot of the inequalities that we suffer from, yes, they are because of the way society is set up, but the other side is that we don't properly prepare for those things. So the simple answer to the question is, we need to reach out and teach more people how to be more responsible for themselves in that aspect as well, rather than saying, well, nobody told me. Responsibility of self, really.
Just to piggyback off of what Jasmine said, I remember my grandmother, this is going to sound so racist, but she was old and she had that. She used to say that Black men wear their money and white men save it. And I never quite understood that until I got of age and would see our young Black men with the big gold chains and the Jordans that were so expensive. And the thing that in our community that we have missed out on so much so over centuries is generational wealth and how to accumulate that. It's because we were not taught that. And like Jasmine said, we have struggled. And so we have lived from paycheck to paycheck, house to house, family to family. So it takes literally us breaking cycles in our own families to educate our children about how to invest, how to, save money. You don't need to spend, if I give you $20, 15 needs to be in a savings account and you spend 5. When they understand that as a young child, then it's a norm for them as they become older. And that's unfortunately something that's not taught in families, especially Black families, because we typically are scrapping and scraping from one situation to the next. So a lot of it is education and teaching our children to be stingy with their money so that they have it in the future, because we have as a culture always been, I got it and I'm going to spend it. I mean, you talk about the entertainment community, we're like 70 to 90% of the spenders in that community, in that environment. And why? Why are we putting all our money there? It's because that's kind of how we've been raised. That's how our culture has kind of grown. And those are the cycles that we have to break in order to get out of this cycle of economic we got to break those cycles.
I'm going to piggyback a little bit more. That's an excellent point. I think one thing that part of my job is I teach financial fitness. We're taught in society to get a job. We're not taught to make money. Those are two different skill sets. Okay, they don't teach that in school. Now, people aren't going to stop you from getting those skill sets, but they're not going to give them to you either. So it's up to us to try to get them wherever we can, and for the rest of us to try to reach out. But yeah, getting a job and making money are two different skill sets.
I've mentioned already that access is one of our hindrances and limitations. And I think that as Ken mentioned, he grew up in an all Black neighborhood. And I think that while, that may not be the case now, but I think we still need to make sure that there's access to the ability to have everything, that a community needs to stand up on its own independently. So we've got to continue to allow access for entrepreneurship. We've got to allow access for education so that there will be the Black doctor in the neighborhood, and there will be the Black financial advisor, the insurance agent, the restaurateur, the computer coder, the, digital cybersecurity chief. I mean, no matter how the jobs have changed, is there an opportunity to provide that within our community, within our neighborhoods? I think so. So, our job and responsibility is to create those access and pathways. Rocco mentioned, the evidence of excellence piece, and Terry mentions being what you see, so I think our job, at least my job as a politician here in Waco, is to make sure that whatever minimum wage is actually a living wage, or to make sure that there are opportunities for young people to have educational platforms and launch pads like STEAM centers or STEM centers or things like that will give open invitations to seeing excellence and to being, putting yourself in the pathway with access to make those choices that you don't have to go to, whatever it is that is the negative side of that. So, that's our job and responsibility, is to create policy that breaks those barriers and rely on one another to see us through that point. Because again, none of us can do it on our own. So it takes talking and communication and making sure that, you know, Ms. Crawford has put that in the Anchor News, and that Rocco knows in the barbershop, we can put that flyer up. There's a interest meeting and so and so, and that Jasmine is able to share what she shares with her circle in building this new initiative and galvanizing those young people who are just beginning their careers, but committed to the community so we can continue to grow and advance. And then we can all go see Dr. Woods Campbell because she's got to take care of us all.
Only some of you.
Right.
Right. So our final Q&A question before we allow you all a chance to share that parting advice. If one of you could take a moment to address what are some ways we can recognize the sacrifice and or struggle of our hidden jewels in our community, such as Black pastors, public servants, doctors, barbers, whom have paved the way for so many, but are very seldom recognized.
Put them in the Anchor News.
Yeah.
We don't do a good job at that. And Waco has had so many juggernauts of history and legacy, and we don't do a good job at recognizing that. You know, it's we don't have a museum that would house or honor that, but you know, we're working on it. You know, when Quinn left, that was a big part of where that kind of historical data could be kept. But again, we're working on it. We are grateful for places like the Anchor News. We're grateful for when, because we deserve, those legacies and stories can't just be told during February. It's not, I mean, we can, you know, we are Black folks, we Black every day. February is just our anniversary. And so, you know, we have got to do better at recognizing the people who, you know, we've got some just giants that have come through this community. And I mean, from R.L. Smith to, you know, not just the ones that you know, right? I think, you know, I guess as far as women, African-American female council members, so there's Marilyn Jones, my mama, Mae Jackson, LaRue Dorsey, and then me. And that's it. As far as females that serve on city. So, you know, those names still have to be called because, you know, they have made an impact. And how do we chronicle and honor our historians and our legends? But I think, you know, we need to collectively work on, you know, some sort of museum. I mean, I know that there are groups that are historians and our griots that are keeping that information. You know, old Wacoans will tell you about Dr. Radford, who wrote a book about all the Black folks who were doing stuff in Waco. It's an older book. You can get a copy at the East Waco Library. You can check it out to know how many pioneers we had in Waco that are from Waco. But it's going to take us doing more active role to get that information out, all of us.
Yeah, Eddie Bernice Johnson is from Waco. So I think we still have the, I guess that's Black History, MLK Day, the celebrations at Baylor, do we not? Once a year. There's a couple of ideas that come to mind. The Anchor News would be great. What if you were to organize a business recognition dinner just for Black businesses? Or what if you were to have MLK Day of the Black History? We brought in some good people at Baylor. What if a part of that was just a Black recognition section for 30 minutes or so where you honored some of the people we talked about? A couple ideas.
Yes, I love those ideas. And as a Black leader, I'm taking them down. You know, hopefully, you know, we can put those into action so us as students can begin to recognize and honor those who have paved the way in the Waco community. So at this time, again, I cannot thank you all enough for participating. I think we've had a great time tonight, and we all, I believe, learned something and took away something from, you know, the wisdom that you all imparted. So for all of you, you know, just take a minute or so to share any parting advice you will have for our students today.
Again, I say, when you run into a negative person, keep running.
No, the only thing I would tell you is just stay positive, stay connected. That's very important. I would have went berserk if I hadn't stayed connected all the times that I moved with the people that are positive. And no matter what you face, stay comfortable in your own skin and enjoy the journey. You're only going to get one. So even if it's not the most ideal situation, I promise you in the long run, it will be. Enjoy your journey. Okay. Don't make it all about work.
I think what I would say is I have a younger clientele, and because of social media and because of YouTube and things like that, they are expected to be millionaires at the age of 18. They think they're gonna be YouTubers, and they're gonna be they because of social media now, they see what they can access and they think they're supposed to have it now. And I have a 16-year-old cousin who says that he's depressed because he's not where he's supposed to be in life. Like, you're supposed to be in class. So I feel like my advice is to log off social media for a minute. Don't compare your life to the people that you see on social media. You got to come back to a realistic way of getting things and know that it's not just going to be handed to you, or it's not just going to be that easy. YouTube is not just going to drop you $1 million just because you're funny. You have to put in work to expect to get the things that you want. That's what I would say.
Good point. Don't measure yourself by other people's success. Measure them by your own goals.
I would say my advice would be, as whatever you aspire to be, find someone in the community that can mentor you in it. There's everything in our community right now. And if you aspire to be a lawyer, there's Black lawyers. If you aspire to be a doctor, own your own newspaper, own your own barbershop, start up a Black collective. There are people, they just need to have the access to them. And I can almost guarantee that nobody would turn them down to mentor them, or at least give them some advice. So seek out what you want to be. And, Rocco, yeah, don't think it's going to happen on YouTube, or because that's not realistic. And those people are almost like LeBron in the NBA. It's like winning the lottery 2 times in a row. It just doesn't happen to everybody. So be realistic in your aspirations and seek out those people who can really mentor you in that.
I'll say comparison kills. And I tell myself that all the time. So don't compare your journey. Like Mr. Hampton said, you can't compare yourself to others, and your journey is your own. And you have to embrace your journey, however difficult it may be. Before I started my nonprofit, I had a hard time. My grandmother passed away. My aunt passed away. My first cousin. And then my brother passed away, like 2 months before I started my nonprofit. And I had a very hard time wanting to keep pressing on, because you have these plans and these thoughts, and we were doing all this planning before my brother passed away, and then he was gone. And it was hard for me, but I told my friends, we got to go, because if we don't do it now, it's not going to happen. And I was right. So trust yourself, trust your alignment. Like I said, trust your purpose. Because if you don't trust all 3 of those things, it's not going to happen. And remember, your Blackness is there for a reason. I know society tries to make us say, well, y'all always bringing up race. Y'all created this thing for us. So stick to this thing and be proud of this thing that they've created, but try to shame us for, because in your Blackness, there is greatness. And it's proven just with this panel. So be true to who you are. Know your purpose. It takes a while to find it. I won't lie. I didn't really know mine until I was like 26, 27. So don't, like Rocco said, you're not going to be 18, have it all figured out. You're not going to be a millionaire overnight. It's not going to happen that way. So be patient with yourself. And that's the best advice that I can give anyone, is to be patient with yourself. Because if you aren't patient with you, you can't expect anyone else to be patient with you.
One of the best pieces of advice I ever got was, if you find yourself to be the smartest person in the room, you need to get in another room. Because we can fill the world with what we don't know. But it challenge yourself, push yourself. you know, I always try to get with people who know far more than I do, because I am learning every minute, and it just makes me better. Iron sharpens iron is a real thing. And so, you know, if you're the smartest one in the room and you're like, oh yeah, I know this, it's time to elevate your mind at that point. And then lastly, just one of the things Jules Bledsoe said was do some unselfish good. You know, do something that you will get no benefit from. Do some unselfish good, because that's how we advance. And that's one, you'll feel better about yourself. Even though you don't need the credit for it, even though, you know, you'll feel better about yourself because you know that you made a mark. And so just do some unselfish good.
You know, thank you all for spending this time with us. Thank you to our Baylor participants and affiliations who helped us put on this event tonight. It has been, like I said, a great time, and I am very appreciative of you all, both our panelists and our attendees. So at this time, I want to allow Mr. Peacock to come and give our closing for this evening.
Yeah. So again, thank you all for being willing to engage and participate this evening. We had an amazing panel, And if you all may allow me to give some parting advice as well, I think it's very relevant for our audience. It's a quote by Toni Morrison that I live by, where she says, I tell my students, when you get these jobs that you have been so brilliantly trained for, just remember that your real job is that if you are free, you need to free somebody else. If you have some power, then your job is to empower somebody else. I hope that we will all keep that in mind as we continue to progress throughout our academic career and our life as a whole. Again, in closing, thank you all for being willing to engage and participate. And I just want to say real quick, you know, we have some great leaders on our panel, but we had a great leader moderating this panel. So I want to thank you, Maya, for the work you're doing here at Baylor, the work you are doing in your community, and the greatness you will continue to achieve throughout your life. And so with that said, you all have a great evening, and thank you again for participating in tonight's panel.